Namaste and warm greetings from Team The Indian Lawyer to this new episode of The Indian Lawyer Legal Tips. Today we are discussing the consequences of negligent driving. I am Sushila Ram Varma, Chief Consultant at the firm. Now first let us understand what are the causes of negligent driving. Well, the first would be distracted driving, and in today's world I would say it's mostly when the person is talking on the mobile phone. This has caused several accidents, and it is good that there is a penalty for people who are caught talking on the phone while they're driving. Secondly, speeding. Excessive speeding can also cause accidents. Thirdly, reckless maneuvers that take place on the roads when one driver tries to overtake the other or tries to do something that can cause an accident. And lastly, and probably the most common, that is driving under the influence of alcohol or drugs. This, of course, is a burning issue, and it is very heartening to see that all state police have now introduced a new system where after a certain time during the day, they are testing the alcohol content in a driver's breath. Now let us understand what is the consequence of negligent driving. The first and probably the harshest consequence would be loss of life. Loss of life could not only be of the victim but could also be at times of the driver himself or herself. Secondly, there could be injuries to both the victim as well as the driver. Thirdly, there could be property damage, and when we say property damage, we mean damage other than the vehicles which have collided. And of course, the societal losses that occur, that is the hospital expenses, the insurance charges, the charge of calling the police, etc. Now, let us understand the legal ramifications. What are the legal ramifications of negligent driving? The first and obviously the most difficult would be the criminal charges that the driver has to face. The second would be civil suits or suits in which damages are demanded by the victim. The third would be fines that can be imposed, and another very important aspect is that the license can be suspended. Many a times in some of these most difficult driving negligence cases, the person who was guilty of negligence has even been imprisoned for years together, depending on the severity of the crime. There are two sections under the Indian Penal Code that deal with negligent driving. The first is Section 279 and the second is Section 304A. Both of these are mentioned in the screen below. Now, in the first case, what happens is, that is, if there is negligent or rash driving, the person who is guilty of negligent or rash driving can be given a punishment which can go up to 6 months or with a fine which will depend on the gravity of the matter. In the second case, that is 304A, where there is death caused by the negligence of the driver, in such a case there would be imprisonment as well as fine. Now, viewers should also understand that compensation can be granted to them under two provisions of law. One would be the insurance law, and as most vehicles which meet an accident are insured, so the accident victim can claim insurance. In the second case, that is the Motor Vehicles Act 1988, there is a provision where the Motor Vehicles Tribunal can grant compensation to the victim depending on the severity of the accident or the injuries. This is mentioned in Chapter 12 of the said Act. Let us discuss the Pune Porsche case that has made the headlines regularly since the day of the incident, that is May 19th. In the Pune Porsche case, a juvenile along with his friends was celebrating his passing of the class 12 exams, and he along with his friends took his father's Porsche car and under the influence of alcohol were driving around in Pune. What happened was very unfortunate. They rammed into two IT professionals, Anish Ayodhya and Ashwini Koshta, causing death of both these professionals. When the police arrested him and they found that he was a juvenile, he was presented before the Juvenile Justice Board. The Juvenile Justice Board gave him a punishment which was ridiculous. That is, they asked him to write a 300-word essay on negligent driving, and over and above that, he was also advised to go for counseling. Surprisingly, he was granted bail within 15 hours of the accident taking place. When there was public outrage, what happened was that the father, who's an important builder in Pune, has been arrested, and the juvenile was sent to a remand home, and he was kept under observation till June 5th, 2024. The father has been charged under Section 75 of the Juvenile Act, which deals with neglect of the child and which will potentially lead up to 3 years in jail and a fine of rupees 1 lakh. Now, what the father and the grandfather have done in this particular case is they have claimed that the Porsche was not driven by the juvenile but was driven by the driver, who was also in the car. The driver has given his statement, but it is very doubtful that the driver was actually driving the car. Now, let us discuss another very important case in negligent driving, which is that of Sanjeev Nanda, who was driving a BMW car. This is State of TRPS Lodi Colony, New Delhi versus Sanjeev Nanda, and it was decided by the Supreme Court of India in 2010. In this particular case, Sanjeev Nanda, who was driving a BMW, was under the influence of alcohol, and while speeding, he killed 6 people, which included 2 constables. The trial court, upon examining the evidence, was of the view that he should be punished under Section 304 Part 2 of the Indian Penal Code, and he was given 5 years of rigorous imprisonment, considering the severity of the crime, as he was under the influence of alcohol. Subsequently, Sanjeev Nanda went to the Delhi High Court, and the Delhi High Court reduced the punishment from 5 years to 2 years. When the matter came up before the Supreme Court upheld the lower court's order and held that Sanjeev Nanda, who had driven under the influence of alcohol, must be punished for a period of 5 years rigorous imprisonment. And Sanjeev Nanda has now completed the sentence, and it is believed that he is now doing good social work as a repentance to what he had done earlier. Dear viewers, a small word of caution. No matter how much your child insists on being allowed to drive, he should not be allowed to go on the roads before he or she reaches the age of 18. Further, they should not be allowed to drive under intoxication. The law spares no one, and in the case of Sanjeev Nanda, it was made very clear that even an admiral's son was not given a clean chit when he killed 6 people. So please be cautious and be aware that the law for negligent driving is not very simple, and one must bear in mind that one has a duty not only to oneself but also to society when one allows children who are not capable of handling cars to drive out in the public. Are you a victim of negligent driving? Do you want to ask for compensation? Do you want to know your rights? If yes, please click on the link below and see what the law has to say. Thank you.